Hello. So today what we are looking at is What White Publishers Won't Print by Zora Neale Hurston. And as you can see, I should be sharing my screen with you, so you should be able to see this print of it. And the things to understand about Zora Neale Hurston as we're reading is, first of all, she's writing in 1950. Secondly, Zora Neale Hurston is a very interesting writer. She was writing as a Black woman in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And a lot of her work still remains very heavily present, and taught in short story classes. Her novels are really, truly excellent. For a lot of years, I taught her short story Sweat. And it's an amazing story, as all of hers are. The thing that we really want to pull out of this and to understand about is that Zora Neale Hurston had a very specific interest in what she was writing about. She wanted to write about the interior lives of her characters and what they were experiencing and what they were feeling in a way of their kind of very standardized, a very human experience. Now, it's impossible to fully separate that she's writing at a time of massive racial segregation. And there are many of both her peers and, white people she's encountering who are saying, like, Zora, why aren't you writing about the struggle of our people? Why aren't you writing and really referencing and shining your incredible spotlight on segregation and what that does to people and, the inhumanity of it? And Zora Neale Hurston, basically kind of came back with, well, that's not what I'm interested in writing. And this particular, essay that she is, she's really addressing that in the sense of she's looking at it as, and walking through as a writer. Now, as you can see on the second, this is a great essay. I want you to be comfortable with it. The second part of this essay is really kind of where we get to the portion that I think is going to be useful for us for use as a lens. Because if we look at the second page, she's really starting to kind of settle in and discuss this idea of stereotype. The first thing she's, kind of addressing is this idea of, is there a market for something? And that's kind of an interesting kind of publication, question. It can be interesting in a lot of ways. What we're looking at, primarily for our purposes, is this discussion of stereotype that she has on the second page of this, where she says, but for the national welfare, it is urgent to realize that the minorities do think and think about something other than the race problem, that they think and think that something other than, that they are very human and internally, according to natural endowment, are just like everybody else. So long as this is not conceived, there must remain that feeling of insurmountable difference. And difference to the average man means something bad. If people were made right, they would be just like him. So what Hurston is kind of really stating here is this idea that if she was writing stories that were very specifically about segregation, about how that impacted, the people who are impacted by segregation, what she's essentially stating is that, well, if I do that, then there are plenty of people who are going to read my stories and say, like, oh, well, this does not apply to me, therefore I have no connection to it. I'm just going to put it down. I'm not interested in all of this, racial writing by Black authors. And so they would put it down. Is that was kind of what Zora's saying here. And in fact, what she's saying here is this idea that she's more interested in these, kind of commonalities of the universal feelings and experiences. And if we look on our third page, as we can see, like, and there we really get nice. The realistic story around a Negro insurance official, dentist, general practitioner, undertaker, and the like would be most revealing. Thinly disguised fiction around the well-known Negro names is not the answer either. The kind of quote-unquote exceptional, as well as Old Man Rivers, has been exploited all out of context already. Everybody's already resigned to the exceptional Negro and willing to be entertained by the quaint. To grasp the penetration of Western civilization in a minority is necessary to know how the average behaves and lives. And skipping down a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a second. So this idea that she has of the, the average of the common rather than the exceptional. That is an interesting kind of direction she's going in here, because we can think about many like documentaries and very important films about Black individuals, or racial minority individuals, or even female individuals who were just like truly exceptional in any era. Like if we think about like the film Hidden Figures, which is about Black female, NASA, literally they were called computers at that point, in that they did a lot of the, calculations that ended up putting people on the moon, men in space and men on the moon. They were just like truly exceptional and brilliant in a way that could not be denied, on any level. What Hurston is getting saying is like, I'm not interested in the exceptional either. Someone whose brilliance is so undeniable that I was like, whoa, well, we got to make an exception for that person. They're so amazing. She's kind of saying is like, I just want your regular accountant who is Black, and I want to write about his interior life and what he's experiencing, because she's kind of saying like, that's more interesting to me. And kind of saying like, she's also saying like, that's something that more people are going to kind of read and say, I see myself in there. Therefore, this kind of like makes me feel empathy and makes me understand something differently. And then the final thing we want to pull out of this is this paragraph second to the last of her essay. Outside of racial attitudes, there's still another reason why this literature should exist. And this is great. This is really kind of her cutting to the heart of why she's saying like the all different kinds of writing need to be present in, in what we consider like the entire oeuvre of, our literature. Literature and other arts are supposed to hold up the mirror to nature. That's the kind of idea, like she's saying, like, this is what writing is meant to do. With only the fractional, exceptional, and the quaint portrayed, a true picture of Negro life in America cannot be. A great principle of national art has been violated. So what she's saying is this, we really, literature and other arts are supposed to hold up the mirrors to nature. She's not interested in something like someone who's exceptional and like one among a million. She's not interested in someone who is totally unlike or is just kind of stereotypical in just a created way. What she is interested in is the lives of the everyday people. And she's saying like, this is showing us something interesting. This is showing us something profound, not someone who's just like amazing and unique and, like stunning. And everyone's like, whoa, they're important. She's kind of saying like, well, who are the everyday people? Who are people who are just living their lives? And she's saying like, the fiction about those individuals is who she's interested in, because that's showing us this idea of shared humanity, of, that's she's saying like, literature that shows those people's feelings, that's important and interesting. So we can kind of think about this idea and take that lens and say like, okay, well, which of the short stories have we read that are ones that Hurston herself would find interesting and would say like, yes, this is the right kind of literature. This is showing that thing that I've been saying is so important about the, everyone, the experience that, the majority can look at and say like, yes, this is a life that that is, not unusual, not exceptional, but does shed light on humanity. All right. So I hope that that has been useful in your read of What White Publishers Won't Print by Zora Neale Hurston.